So Anthony, recently the Bitcoin Foundation has been in the news, and the news hasn't been so great. And it's kind of been interesting because it's not really the foundation so much as some of the core members of the foundation who have been finding themselves in hot water. Your earliest project was and continues to be the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada. You know, we've talked about, some of the problems with the foundation before. I'm curious, do you have any thoughts or comments on kind of what's going on there now?
I think it is, when you're involved in an organization like that is representing something that is this disruptive technology. Anytime someone that's involved in that is having issues, it's definitely not a good thing for Bitcoin. And I sometimes I don't want my phone to ring because it tends to be the press calling and telling me something that I hadn't known yet, and they want to take half my day now to start talking about that. But we got to move forward from that. I think there's great people coming into the foundation. I'm always eager to work with them. I think they've just announced in Canada that they've got their interim board of directors. I think they're working closely with the Montreal Embassy. So, I hope to have more discussions with them. There are people that are doing an amazing job with the foundation, and, we'll get some more people in there, and I think it's going to be just fine.
So you think that over the long term, the Bitcoin Foundation, once they, restaff up and recover, is going to be a relevant organization moving forward?
I do. I don't think they're going to disappear, and I think they probably made some moves recently because of what's happened that is going to strengthen what they're trying to do, and I hope they succeed. I mean, the better that they can do, the better we're all going to do. And I'm a member of the foundation, and I want them to succeed. I want to see more good press coming out to it, and this will hopefully push them more to get it where they want it to be.
Well, so where they want to be is an interesting question. One of the points of contention about the Bitcoin Foundation has been what kind of an organization are they? Because I also am a member, but that hasn't really mattered too much about being able to understand what the Bitcoin Foundation really is. There isn't much more clarity when you're a member than when you're not. Specifically, the Bitcoin Foundation could be a trade organization where they represent industry, and then they're only representing the industry members who are choosing to be members of them. That's a pretty standard type of organization. But there's kind of this broad perception in the community that's been around just forever. I don't know if anybody's even encouraged it, that the Bitcoin Foundation represents the Bitcoin community. And the Bitcoin Foundation has never really come out and explicitly said, like their website doesn't say, we are not the voice of the Bitcoin community. It doesn't say that. So I'm asking both, what do you think the Bitcoin Foundation wants to be? And also, what do you consider the Bitcoin Alliance of Canada relative to those two options?
I think from day one, the foundation has wanted to represent Bitcoin. I think that was their goal. They were accepting memberships from around the world. So to me, that is they wanted to represent Bitcoin, and they wanted to do it internationally. And I think that's fine, but I think they had made some mistakes initially that has led to an imbalance and people that felt that they weren't included in a lot of things. So, and from that, we've got great leaders that have gotten together with some other organizations and formed the Global Bitcoin Alliance, which is just launched in Germany last month. So it's actually a great thing that's come out of the affiliate plan and structure of the foundation, is that national organizations have come together, and we want to just share resources, share the best practices, share the models that we've done and gone through, and help facilitate and speed the growth of communities worldwide. So I think the foundation has wanted to represent Bitcoin from the start. I think they made some mistakes initially. I think it can still be fixed. And I think they can work with national organizations too. We can all just work together with a common goal. Now,
you mentioned that we can work with national organizations, but I just heard you mention a international organization. It sounded like forming out of Germany that I actually have not heard anything about. You said this happened last week?
No, it happened actually last month at the event I think it was in Berlin.
Interesting.
And the Global Bitcoin Alliance came about from national organization leaders such as myself meeting at conferences, and we want to set up a very loosely knit organization that is just sharing resources. There's no contract between each other. There's no, anybody can be part of this. You can be a meetup group. We're just going to be a resource for events. We'll be a resource for best practices. Actually, at the expo in Toronto, there's going to be some tracks for the Global Bitcoin Alliance that'll guide people how to set up communities. This is what we've done. And we don't want people to have to reinvent the wheel. We want it to be nice and easy, but we don't need to have a tie to each other with any type of contract. We can just say, hey, we're going to be open with each other. We'll be transparent. We'll share. We'll be inclusive of anybody that wants to be there. You don't need one organization from one country. It's better to have multiple organizations. Let's get everybody involved. So we're very loose. We only basically communicate when we're just sharing, hey, what happened to you guys last week, or do you find a better process to do with a meetup group? And we're going to develop processes and best practices to form communities around the world. That's our focus. So I don't see ourselves as a lobby group or anything like that. We're just a group that's going to help form larger Bitcoin communities.
So is it safe to describe this as a international alliance of national alliances?
I call it a collaboration of independent groups.
Okay, I like that. So can you contrast that to the model that the Bitcoin Foundation is approaching other, because they're trying to become an international organization?
Yeah, I'm one of the founders of the Global Bitcoin Alliance with teams from Argentina, from Israel, and a bunch of other countries that came together and thought that something like this should be started. And it came about actually with the foundation trying to set up these contractual agreements with national organizations that are out there. And we didn't think that was the best way to go about things. So through some discussions, we thought of a better approach, which we like, which is to be very, very loose and not needing any of these type of documents and just sharing resources and best practices. That's where this came about. So I am involved with it. It's not going to have I don't think the effect of the foundation in terms of scale. We're just here to know that we're partnering, that we all agree that just for the better interest of building these communities of Bitcoin, let's work together, let's collaborate, yet we need as many points of separation as possible.
Yeah, I think that's really important because what you're doing effectively is decentralizing something like the Bitcoin Foundation, whereas they are a pretty centralized organization and sometimes are even sort of misunderstood by the public as representing Bitcoin. I don't think you would claim to be about that at all. This is just a networking thing where anybody is welcome to join, and we'll see what comes out of it. And I think that's so important because a lot of the best projects and opportunities come out of those networking opportunities. So kudos to you for that.
Well, and also I want to make sure we're clear too. The foundation, if it wasn't for the foundation, I would not have been probably building the communities that I'm doing. I've learned from what they've done. They were first to market, and of course, maybe they made some mistakes, and that's fine. But they've done a great service to me, and I've learned to be more, open with the models that we're doing. And I really have a lot of respect for the people that are working there right now, and I do communicate with many of them there. So I think they've learned as well. And through communications and the outreach to these different national organizations who said, perhaps the way you guys are going about these affiliate programs isn't right, or it can be done a little bit differently. I think they've learned from that, and they're willing to adapt as well. So I've seen changes. I'm really happy that they exist. I really am. I think they have done a lot of great things for the community. I think that they helped me to get where I want to be. So, I look forward to working with them in the future. And, I am optimistic of the foundation.
I see the foundation as two distinct things. One kind of is a professional association, which can coordinate some responses to public policy issues, talk to people, and, without any authority really, but just act as a source of information. And then there is the leadership team. And I think on the leadership team, there are some serious problems, conflicts of interests, and some very big issues that need to be fixed. But I do see at the same time there are a lot of very, very talented people involved at different levels within the foundation doing work within various working groups, whether that's in the foundation's education committee, whether that's in coordinating speakers for conferences, not Bitcoin conferences necessarily, but making sure that conferences are attended by qualified speakers and providing a contact point for conference organizers who don't necessarily know how to navigate the community very well. All of those functions. Recently, I agreed to join the foundation's working group on dealing with poverty issues through Bitcoin. We don't have a name for the committee yet. Various names have been suggested, but it's basically focused on financial inclusion, economic development, measures against poverty, dealing with issues such as remittances and microlending. I'd like to call it the Committee for the Other 6 Billion, which has been a passion of mine since the beginning in Bitcoin, something I talked about a lot. I joined that working group as the chairman in order to foster some development of those concepts and see where we can apply some good thinking among some very talented people who are doing work in that space. And there'll be some announcements coming out of that. So I'm involved with the community now in a couple of different ways. Firstly, because I'm a member. Secondly, because I'm part of this specific working group. And thirdly, because I do sometimes go and speak at conferences at the invitation of the foundation. For example, when I went to Greece and did the Disrupt conference, that was at the invitation of the Bitcoin Foundation. And so for that purpose, I think it serves its goals well. But, I draw a very bright line between, the working group and the membership and the leadership issues. I've been asked to join the board. I've been nominated for the board, and I have absolutely no interest in getting involved in that layer of management or leadership in the foundation, primarily because I think, some of the existing people and structure of that board, as well as the bylaws that determine the rules by which that board works, are broken, very broken. And so I'm focused on working in the parts of the foundation that actually work well. Anyway, so that's my contribution to the foundation. So I've got mixed feelings, but I'm trying to keep my work focused on the places where I think I can have an impact and stay away from the places that I think are slightly toxic.
I think that name is excellent, though. Committee for the Other 6 Billion. That's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, what exactly are you hoping to accomplish? Do you think that some organizations will come out of the working group that will actually address these issues, like microlending institutions? Or, what do you see happening from this?
Well, that's still up for discussion. And part of my job is to get the right people, I think people who are committed and active in that space, to sit down and talk about these things. So I'm working with some of the well-known charities in the space and some of the people who are working on issues such as remittances and microlending and things like that, things I think will have an impact. And we're trying to discuss what exactly can this working group do. But I can tell you the one thing that has become very apparent is that our focus will be on decentralized solutions. So we're not looking to find some big wealthy NGO and, persuade them to jump on board with Bitcoin. That's a centralized approach. We're looking for decentralized solutions. And, perhaps at first all that means is putting together some reading materials that describe scenarios or use cases where Bitcoin can be used and say, this is how you would use Bitcoin in a remittances scenario. This is how Bitcoin could help in a micro-lending scenario. I think at first, just informational content would be a great first goal. And then we'll take it from there with the emphasis always on decentralized solutions to this problem.
So one of the interesting things about the foundation, though, that I've kind of noticed is that it seems like a lot of their problems kind of revolve around the fact that they are kind of centralized, and that because of that, the foundation and specifically the leadership that you're talking about can be a bottleneck for actually doing any good work. I think the reason why the foundation is important right now is because they have a bunch of money, right?
No, it was foundationally compromised from the very foundation by being centralized in a decentralized currency. It's the structure, the bylaws. It is a poorly structured hierarchical organizations with stifling rules designed for a pre-decentralized era, which it's almost antithetical to the very essence of Bitcoin, the way it's organized. It completely sucks. But, the problem is that it still is there and we have to deal with it. So I'm hoping that we can see some changes in leadership, and I hope those changes in leadership can go in and radically modify the bylaws and make it a much more open, much more decentralized, much more member focused, much more global organization, or simply remove a lot of its activities and allow it to act more as an umbrella for regional organizations in a much more decentralized fashion. Either way, it's going to need some radical changes. Otherwise, quite simply, it's going to be pushed into irrelevance and oblivion as other more effective, more decentralized, more scalable more active organizations take root and start producing output and producing value. I think you're going to start seeing that with some of the other, the Bitcoin Global Alliance and the various associations that are popping up. Those are in direct response to a need that's not being met and to problems that exist in the existing system.
I think that that's a really interesting point, and it's one that I've been very happy to make about Mt. Gox a number of times, really at any available opportunity, is that this thing that, has companies fail or has, again, talking about Mt. Gox, has companies fail, sometimes repeatedly. And in the case of the foundation, because, again, they have these kind of core issues that were set up at the beginning, each of these projects has catalyzed its own eventual competition. And, there's always an opportunity to right the ship. There's always an opportunity to change things. But once you've spurred competition, the competition doesn't stop just because you fix stuff. And so it's an interesting, it's the situation that we have now, like Anthony was saying, really is directly because the foundation had these kind of obvious flaws that became more obvious as time went on. But people figured it out and then started working on solutions. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's the little grain of sand that starts the crystallization of the competition around it. But, I love the fact that you pointed out the comparison to Gox. I would say the foundation is the empty Gox of professional associations in Bitcoin. Its problems go directly back to complete failure of leadership, completely closed, insular, arrogant, sheltered, uncommunicative leadership, part of which was Karpeles himself. But, there's another couple of relics left on that board. And they pursue the exact same approach with their leadership. And the foundation is the Gox of foundations. And, in fact, I'm surprised it didn't blow up in the wake of the Gox scandal, because there were a lot of significant conflicts within that environment. Unfortunately, the problem is that the very people who are at the heart of this problem have the least amount of awareness and are not about to resign and walk off and allow the foundation to become a more effective organization and to revise its rules and to reform itself. That's not going to happen from the inside out. That's going to require pressure. I'm actually a big fan of getting many of the industry members of the foundation, to start tugging at the strings, because they can do that. They have the power to do that, and to say, look, enough is enough. Step down, reform, fix yourself. So we're just going to take our stuff elsewhere. The foundation without its industry members is just the individual members, and they've ignored them for a couple of years quite effectively. So they'd walk very happily.
So I guess this brings up the kind of age-old philosophical question of working within the system versus, just going outside the system or starting something new.
Both.
Mm-hmm.
As many as possible.
Yeah. I know that the foundation has funding, right? And they've got a certain amount of name recognition and so forth. So there's going to be an advantage to kind of working with them there. But it sounds like you don't think that they are irreversibly broken, Andreas. It sounds like you think they can be reformed and can get on a better track. Is that right?
I think there's a possibility. And I also think that in the meantime, they do provide a vehicle for promoting the things I care about, like the working group for the other 6 billion, just because of sheer inertia. However, Stephanie, I would say, one of the things that's interesting is you said they're funded. And they certainly have received many funds. Where are those funds? Who controls those funds?
Yeah,
when were they last audited? Are they actually solvent, or have all of those funds disappeared into a big black hole? Just remember who was in the leadership until recently, who is in the leadership today, and what their track record with ethics has been. And I would suggest that I wouldn't be not surprised at all if the foundation implodes in a giant embezzlement problem sometime down the line, or funds get stolen within quotes or without quotes, and something like that. I mean, it's bound to happen, because these things don't happen because of technical failures. They don't happen because bad actors. They happen because of failures of leadership. And the foundation is the very definition of a failure of leadership. And therefore, these things will happen to them eventually. It's just a matter of time. I think that's one of the reforms we need to see. And, if that doesn't happen, you're going to see it blow up, probably.
You're not worried about being associated with that if a blow up does happen?
Well, again, I'm keeping my involvement to a very, very specific thing. I'm a member and I'm on a working group, an unpaid volunteer working group that's composed of people who are not even members of the foundation necessarily, and receives no funding and sends no funding to the foundation. So the only thing we have is the organizing name. And I've purposely kept my involvement to that, despite multiple requests to join the foundation, to become to be nominated for various positions. I'm not interested. And part of the reason I'm not interested is because I don't trust the structure that it has today or the leadership to be able to deliver ethical leadership and predictable results. I fear that there will be a crisis. So yeah, I'm trying to use the foundation as much as I can to promote the things that are important to me. And then beyond that, I'm keeping arm's length.
Yeah, and I'm in the same position. I've been approached as well to be doing work with the foundation, but I decided not to. I think many of the same reasons, but maybe being on a committee or on a group might make more sense. So I think that's something for me to think about too, Andres.
Yeah, exactly. It provides kind of a bit. And keep in mind, there are a lot of, I think there are a lot of people within the foundation who work in the foundation who are ethical, responsible, hardworking, principled people. The problem is that when you work for an organization that's rotten from the top, they get chewed up. They're going to get tainted by this association, even though they're not at fault already. I mean, we saw that. I think probably, Matonis, who came in as a breath of fresh air a while ago, has now been effectively tainted by the latest scandals. And people were calling for his resignation, even though Matonis had been the answer in the past to the leadership problems and had provided some reform and fresh approaches. That's going to continue happening, because until you fix the real problem, it's just going to start tainting everybody else who comes into contact with it. So you have to be very careful how much you get involved.
Okay.
By next week, I'll probably be fired from the working group.
Well, I was going to say, Andreas, do you want to just go ahead and insult Peter's mother or something?
Yeah, wow. I was really trying to choose my words carefully.
Again,
that's what people like about it, though.
You've heard this show before, right?
Yeah, and for sure, that's actually probably the best thing to do, Andreas, in this situation, because you are affiliating yourself. Stephanie is totally right. And you, again, I think articulating this stuff at the beginning, it's not going to endear you to them, but they're not inviting you because you have endeared yourself to them. They are inviting you because you have legitimacy that they desperately need, just as Matonis had a ton of legitimacy and had that basically all leached away from him just through this association. So no, I think that, again, I still respect John, and I still respect John. Yeah, I still respect John too.
He's done a great job, but unfortunately, yeah, he got splashed by the effluent.
I think that's very appropriate for you to be very clear about what type of role you're taking there, because at this point it has become kind of a toxic organization, I say, as a member of that organization.
But let's make it clear, it's not just about individuals. The problem with the foundation is not just about individuals, although there are some very problematic situations with some of the individuals. The problem is the structure itself. The rules and bylaws of the foundation are broken, and they will create concentrations of power and hierarchical stress points in the foundation that both attract and reward bad behavior, and then ossify that bad behavior so that it can't be excised by the members. The members in the foundation have no power. The founding members of the foundation have more power than the board. And as a result, it creates tremendously unbalanced, non-responsive, non-representative organization that is far too concentrated and hierarchical. It's as if you say, here's a decentralized currency. What's the worst, most unresponsive, most hierarchical, most concentrated power structure we could put on top of it? Oh, great. Let's do that.
Okay, so why don't we do it better? I mean, like, again, I know everybody has like a billion projects, but the foundation, last time I checked, had 1,200 or 1,300 members. You know, we have orders of magnitude beyond that, and 80% of our listeners are based in the U.S. So if there's no U.S. competition, I mean, like, again, it just seems like you're throwing time behind this anyways. I did, 6 months ago, and then I kind of felt like my efforts with the foundation weren't really, just didn't feel like anything was being accomplished. So I'm just like, anyways, this is way off topic for the show, but it just seems like this is such an obvious explosion that's coming, such an obvious problem that appears to be unavoidable no matter what we do, because it's just built into the rules that this thing's going to blow up.
Yeah, we're going to get goxed by the foundation eventually if we don't fix it first. And that's going to be unfortunate for Bitcoin. And I'm really hopeful that other organizations that have started evolving will put pressure on this. But, honestly, I think the only recourse at the moment in this particular organization, read the bylaws. And the way to address issues in an organization is to learn the rules better than the people who supposedly run by the rules inside the organization and then beat them over the head with the bylaws. I think that's a very effective trick. Read the bylaws. Effectively, at this point, the only group that has any power are the industry members.
Well, with that in mind, I think that we're going to wrap this episode of Let's Talk Bitcoin. Thanks to Andreas, Stephanie, and Anthony for being on today, guys. This was a lot of fun and a very interesting, meandering conversation that we had here.
Really enjoyed that. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think this is important to talk about. I don't disagree that it's off topic. I think it's very important.
I didn't say it was off topic, just meandering.
Yeah.
As we do.
All right, I'm gonna go take off my snow boots and brush my teeth because my mouth tastes of snow boot right now.
See you guys in 3 weeks or sooner if anybody's going to Coin Summit.
Yes, I'll see you in Coin Summit.
Yeah, I'll see you at Coin Summit too.
BitGive Foundation is a nonprofit charitable giving organization leveraging the power of the Bitcoin community to improve public health and the environment worldwide. Help us demonstrate the significant impact of Bitcoin in addressing these critical issues on a global scale. Support international giving in Bitcoin. Please visit our website at www.bitgivefoundation.org. That's www.bitgivefoundation.org.